Home Affairs Minister says his department is addressing the visa backlog. Motsoaledi says South Africa is not the only country experiencing the problem. The backlog is hampering investment in the country. That according to Business Leadership SA. The department says it's racing against time to fix things and has made progress in processing visas in the past few months. Let's unpack these issues further with Home Affairs Minister Motsoaledi. Thank you so much, Minister, for your time. Can you tell us, just as an introduction, where the current backlog with international visa applications stands?
Good evening, Anel. Good evening to the viewers and listeners. I think maybe we need to start by understanding that visas are not homogeneous documents. There are various types of visas and 17 of them. Some have to do with investment, others with business, some others just visiting. Now, the first thing to understand this problem is for me to confirm that Home Affairs has formed a special unit called Corporate Account Unit. The moment a person wants to invest here, especially those who pledge at the President's Investment Summit, we sit with them, they give us a list of people who they want urgently, without whom they cannot be able to do business in South Africa immediately. And we issue such visas. For instance, in the last Investment Summit, there were about 19 companies that pledged. Amongst them, the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, German Trade Industry, French Trade Commission, Korea Trade Commission, Japanese Trade Industry Commission, then MTM, Ford, Toyota, Amazon, Mercedes, Hawaii, Frampton, France, Sarah. You know, there are many, but there were 19 in all, and smaller ones. Between them, they gave us 3,090 names of people who are skilled engineers, technicians, etc., without whom their investments can't start. And we issued those visas, all of them without any exception, in October. That's what we have done. Then come people who are applying for work visas. There were 649. We've issued 601. We are left with 48, and we are still dealing with it. Those who wanted to start businesses, that means not necessarily investors, but business visas, because these are different. There were 109 people last year who applied for business visas. We have issued 8 of them. We are left with 29. Now, what is the backlog all about? The backlog, Aneli, is what developed after COVID. Last year, after the state of disaster was lifted, 97,000 people applied for this type of visas, spousal visas, relatives visas, visitors visas, etc., etc. So that's where the delay is. And out of the 97,000 we have received, we have finalized 43,000. We are left with 54,000. Those are the ones that we are dealing with. And out of them, 24,000 of them are spousal visas for South African spouses and people who are on PR, permanent residence. That means people who have already been here on permanent residence and South Africans who have the spouse overseas. They number 24,000 in these visas that are said to be backlogged. And 9,000 of them, actually 9,154, are spousal visas for people who just want to come in South Africa to join their spouses. The 24,000, unfortunately, they also want us to give them licenses such that when they arrive here, they can also perform work. 1,224 are for retirement visas, people who just want here to come and retire. So the ones we give preference to, where we don't waste time at all, are these visas of investors. For instance, on the scarce skill visa, our target is 4 weeks. When we say there's a backlog, it means 4 weeks have passed. And we realize we don't differ much from UK, whose target is 3 weeks only, and they are just a week ahead of us. But as we're sitting here, we are aware that all countries have got a backlog because of COVID. US has got 400,000 backlog, Canada 2.1 million, and we have got this 54,000, which we reduced from 97 last year.
So thank you so much. Giving us those numbers helps us to really understand the complexity of the issues, to get a better sense of the work being done to try and clear not only the overall backlog, but the specific backlog relating to investment. So I'm assuming that your response to Business Leadership SA's criticism that the backlog is stifling the economy is that, hang on, actually no, sufficient work is being done to make sure that anyone wanting to invest or to work in South Africa and bring critical skills here is being offered the kind of preferential or fast-track treatment to bring that money in, correct?
Indeed. That's why I'm saying for last year's investment summit, we've already issued those visas by October. I mean, by the end of October. And of course, it is true that their spouses are lagging behind, but we have agreed with them because we meet. They said, look, just to start work past this particular one visas, the spouses will follow. And so we don't understand why it is said that the stifling investments, they are going anywhere, when we meet with them quite often to try and resolve these issues. And
just quickly, Minister, I do apologize for interrupting you. There's another issue I want to talk to you about, but before we get to that, if someone wants to invest in South Africa, but they weren't necessarily involved in the Presidential Investment Summit, how long does an application take to process from start to finish?
They also go to the corporate account unit. The corporate account unit preceded the Presidential Investment Summit. It's only that with the Presidential Investment Summit, immediately after people pledge and say we want to establish a plant here, because they are new, we sit with the presidency, we sit with trade industry and competition, and we work together on these issues. So those who just want to invest, but they were not part of the Presidential Summit, they still go to the corporate accounts unit, and we work with them and we fast track things.
Okay, so let's come to the issue of a different type of visa or applications where there's also a backlog, and that's with those foreign nationals from Zimbabwe wanting to stay in South Africa to regularize their stay. We know next week the termination of the ZEP permits will be challenged in court. Give us an update, because we know that there's an incredibly complex process involved. There's certain people who already have long stay visas. They need to apply to regularize their stay. There's people who have come here under the ZEP permit. They need a different type of application, and there's also a massive backlog. What is the current situation, and what is the hope for these people? Because come end of June, they either have to leave or they will remain in South Africa as illegal immigrants.
Aneli, I think it must be understood. I've mentioned to you 17 different visas here, starting with business visas, work visas, study visas, corporate visas, etc., scarce skills visas, etc. There are about spousal visas, relative visas. There are 17. Now, you must know that when the ZEP was issued, specifically the agreement was that you are not entitled to any type of visa. You are not supposed to apply for permanent residence, regardless of how many years you stay. You are not supposed to apply for spousal visa, even if you get married, meaning the law in South Africa that says when you marry a South African, you can start applying for permanent residency and for citizenship. Does not apply to them. That's one of the motivations why we think this cannot stay, because it was a temporary arrangement. So I just want you to understand that background. And remember, you can't let human beings be temporary. Emotional as people are about this, I don't think it's fair, even for us South Africans, to want people to remain temporary forever when their lives are moving. Many have already got married, but they are finding it very tough because the agreement was that, in fact, they are breaching the law, some of them, if I may say so. The agreement of the what you call is just being ignored. Many have come here to study. They've completed their degrees. They've got PhD, which now fall under scarce skill list, which we have just published in the government gazette. And yet they are held back by the fact that I was given a ZEP and I don't deserve any type of visa. So I think you must also understand that we are doing this as a positive thing. because I don't see anybody living their lives on a temporary business forever. Now you ask me where we are. Unfortunately, I won't disclose much, but because we are being taken to court. We are definitely being taken to court. We'll hear what the court says. But at the moment, there are two types of activities that are happening. Because the people have already been here in South Africa. When you apply for a general work visa, you're supposed to go to the Department of Labor and get a certificate which proves that the work you are applying for, no other South African can do that job. Now, we have advised them to apply for a waiver for that. And I've waited for many of them. I'm signing many of the waivers. And there are those who are taking chances who are not on the ZEP. They also apply for the waivers. And of course, naturally, we reject them because this is specifically for ZEP. Then after they got the waiver, the letter of waiver from me, which I'm signing every single day, after they receive such letters, they now choose among the litany of visas I've mentioned and apply for those visas, and another team will assess them and see if they qualify. So that's basically what we are doing and where we are at the present moment.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Home Affairs Minister Motsoaledi. We're definitely going to get an update on the situation with that court case when that hearing happens on the 14th of April. That's next week.